Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. It's going to be spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of the map atop the yellow Terran player that honestly we don't know a whole lot about. Give it up. Oh, sorry, no, we know a lot about this player. Give it up for Juggernaut Jason. But his opponent is the one that we don't know a whole lot about. Spawned down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Told you I'm already mixing up their names. They're too similar. We have the red Terran player. Give it up for Josh, who, according to Peely, managed to get a supposed buy over Huck, but the bracket's still listed as a 2-0. It's a little bit weird because normally when you do indicate a buy on a bracket, the way that you do it is you mark it as like a 99 wins and -1 losses. But on this bracket, they list it as 2 wins, 0 losses. So I'm not entirely too sure what that's what the situation is over there. I'm gonna trust Peely that he knows what's going on, that Huck supposedly did not show up. But regardless, Josh gonna be over here in this TvT. We do have Reaper openings coming out from both of these players. Juggernaut Jason, for those who don't know, is a pretty awesome player. He's actually probably one of the top Terran North American players. I would definitely say at least top 5, if not like top 3 or so. There's a little bit of contention. Obviously, Masa probably going to be number 1. Major probably going to be number 2. That's personal rankings. Maybe some people will say no, Major is above Masa. I think Masa is number 1. But then, you start to get like Epic and Juggernaut Jason. Poke Bunny has actually been doing pretty well lately. You start to get to some of those other players. For the most part, we already see Josh getting a nice pick off on one of those early SCVs. Shutting down a little bit of scouting over here for Jason, who's been very defensive with his Reaper. Maybe looking to try and get a surprise shot off on the high ground on his opponent's Reaper and try and micro his way to a victory. Does have another Reaper popping out, so actually, if he catches Josh just a little bit off guard, he can get into a really nice position, already getting a couple of good shots off. A Reaper grenade is going to save Josh's life for at least a little bit, buy him a little bit of time zoning out. Jason trying to cut off his opponent, but eventually going to be given up. Now, the small little Reaper advantage, it's nice, but nothing going to be game-ending by any means. It definitely helps out a little bit later on when we start to see, say, Hellions or something getting added to the mix. For the most part, we are just going to be seeing Marines. We're going to see a little bit of a scouting coming in from Jason, who is finding that Josh has been playing pretty greedy. The Hellion is going to be very helpful when it pops out, but 2 SCVs already going down. We might end up seeing 3 or 4 SCVs end up falling before any sort of Marine response is really over here. Marines finally coming out. Hellion going to be adding in a little bit extra damage. Nice Reaper grenades also adding a bit extra damage to the Marines, and the Marines not focus firing down the weakened Reaper. He does finally get it, but oh man, 5 workers killed so far already. It looks like 2 workers being killed on the other side of the map as this Reaper over here for Josh equalizing with a little bit of damage of his own, but Reaper for Josh does manage to survive a little bit longer. I think Jason's Reaper ended up getting, both of his Reapers end up losing their lives, you can see over there. But still, getting a total of 5 workers killed and 2 Marines is really, really nice. I'm sort of surprised that a single Reaper for Josh managed to kill off 3 workers himself. Overall, I would say it's kind of weirdly even-ish trays. Jason walks away with a small little worker lead, but the biggest thing that I have taken away from watching a lot more of these TvTs and also just talking with some players that, or people that understand TvT a little bit better than me, like say Zombie Grub, who is a Terran player, or a fairly decent Masters level Terran player, you'll learn that the worker counts aren't quite as important as they are in a lot of the other matchups, just because with mules, with the ability to like really just, I guess, produce a lot of income off of those mules on the mineral patches, they end up mattering a little bit less than they do in some of the other matchups. And also you can play catch up quite quickly. As you can already see, Josh has been producing 2 workers a little bit more consistently than Jason, so he's already pretty much caught up, actually overtaken Juggernaut Jason at this point. Regardless though, we do have a 3rd expansion popping down for Josh, which is a bit later than Jason's. Jason's already finished up. But I think one of the big things that we're going to be wanting to keep an eye on are things like the medevac count. Medevac's already out for Josh. As you can see, he's elevatoring around the siege tank, and that adds in a lot more value to that single siege tank. Jason's siege tank going to be very immobile. If it gets put into an awkward position, if the units are able to pounce on it, he's not really going to be able to have a nice easy retreat path out like Josh will. Josh may even try and elevator some of his units over to that natural expansion, but some Marines over here for Jason are around and waiting for him. Still, there's enough health on this medevac that he's going to be able to drop in the Marines over here. The siege tank also going to provide a little bit of covering fire. It does just barely cover a little bit of that natural expansion. Not quite enough to completely defend those Marines, though. Viking going to be very important over here for Juggernaut Jason to keep that medevac from push back far enough, though. Make sure it doesn't get that high ground vision. Make sure that it can't just elevator units in. It just barely managed to survive against the double Vikings, and it looks like Josh is going to have to retreat on out of here. Oh, I think that Siege Tank's life is pretty much forfeit, though. He's going to just try and trade out the best that he can. Maybe try and pick up a Cyclone. Hey, he gets a Cyclone. That's definitely not too bad. It's going to be nice since, you know, later on those Cyclones can pick off medevacs and pick off Vikings, pick off high-value target units, especially if there's ever another drop attempt that comes in. Both these players end up grabbing their third expansions around the same time, or at least securing them. Josh going to be waiting to turn this into an orbital command until after he finally lands it and finishes it. But behind all this, we take a look, and losing those siege tanks definitely hurt Josh quite a bit, as now you can see he's down 2 siege tanks. He's down a handful of Marines right now. Well, actually, yeah, he's down a handful of Marines right now, so his army supply really isn't looking too amazing. And on top of that, Juggernaut Jason has his double engineering bay, or I think single engineering bay? Single engineering bay. He has a single engineering bay researching one more upgrade than Josh has even started right now. Not only that, but Stim also on the way right now for Juggernaut Jason, whereas Combat Shields is on the way, but we do have Stim finished up, I guess, for Josh. So playing a little bit of catch up, Jason, in that regard, but he's going to have more than enough time that he needs for it, because he's got the double tech labs researching. He's going to have combat shields pretty soon, and Stim is not too far off as well. Regardless, Josh moving across the map with a bit of a drop, just trying to seize a little bit of map control. He does have a handful, 1 or 2 Marines kind of splattered about, a Hellion over here, a Marine over there, just getting ready to scout out any potential move outs from drop ships, or even just straight up move outs of the army, the main army from Juggernaut Jason. But Jason's also got a really nice spread also, with a Viking up here in the top left. He has another Viking down over here in the top bottom right. He has a Marine down over here further on the south side, just to scout out for any potential drops. And that is one real big part of TvT, is a lot of it is about just vision out on the map, being able to catch when your opponent is going for a big June drop, making sure that you're not kind of out of position, because if your opponent sieges up inside of your production facilities, inside of your mineral line, it can be really hard to break that, especially with, you know, your units trying to filter up a choke point through the ramp, filtering up through the choke points that your buildings naturally create. Those siege tanks of your opponent that are preemptively sieged up before you, they're going to get some great shots off. Juggernaut Jason, though, going to be moving across the map. I think that these single Marines have cleaned up a majority of the scouts from Josh. He has a small little dropship down here on the bottom right-hand side of the map, but oh, he's not going to be too happy when he sees that there is this army out for Jason. Well, maybe he will be a little bit happier. Not quite as happy that there is still a decent-sized force back at home to defend and deal with the drop, but oh, Jason's looking for the dropship. He actually does manage to siege up a couple of these siege tanks. Not quite in time to take out too many of the Marines, but does manage to take out 1 or 2 of them and force that dropship back a little bit. Overall, it looks like a pretty even-ish game with a slight lead going to Jason just in terms of the upgrades. Now, Josh is finally catching up a little bit in upgrades. He has 1-1, finishing up. We're just right around now with double engineering bays, but Jason does have that +2 missile attacks, that infantry weapons going up, so he's going to have a slight little lead in that upgrade count pretty soon. It's not going to be a forever lead. It's not going to be for a very long, but it's going to be a lead nonetheless for a short period of time. Eventually, though, he is going to be falling behind in the upgrade counts. Well, no, he does actually get up that second engineering bay, does start up the infantry armor upgrade. 4th expansion now started to come out over here for Josh, and once again, Jason already has his 4th expansion just a tad bit earlier, but again, not really going to be the big critical factor of whether or not they have their 4th expansion slightly earlier than an opponent. I think a lot of it is going to come down to the angle for this engagement, the unit composition. We do have a nice little siege tank lead over here for Jason, so if he gets sieged up into a nice position, oh, he's going to be able to rain hell down on top of Josh's army. Josh does still have a slight little lead in the Marine count, so you can maybe make use of that. But this game really does feel like it can go either way. One of the big things I was talking about earlier is the fact that Jason does have that +2 infantry weapons finishing up for in just a little bit. And as soon as this is finished up, it's going to be finishing up in a matter of seconds. If he can force an engagement before +2/+2 finishes up for Josh, then Juggernaut Jason is going to be in a really nice upgrade lead. And he might be able to take a bit of a better trade with the Marine versus Marine. Now, it does get a little bit more complicated, especially with the siege tanks raining down hell. And you're like, okay, well, the siege tanks are doing a lot of splash damage. How much damage are the Marines really doing? Are they going to be quite as effective? And there's a lot of factors that go into play by that I'm sure much smarter Terran players than I could really talk about. But regardless, being able to catch your opponent off out of position is a really big part of the matchup. And right now, we do see the medevac coming in the top left-hand side. At the same time, medevac's coming in the bottom right-hand side, coming into the main base, able to deal with the missile turrets very quickly, and that's actually going to be really nice for Jason, because he's going to be able to get some free pickups, and he does lose one of the medevacs, as well as a handful of the units, but the big thing was coming in with the drops on the bottom left-hand side, or over the third, but no, he decides to back out. I'm a little bit surprised he didn't decide to go in, because this army was so far out of position. They were all up in the main base. I really do feel like you could have at least killed off the sensor tower. That's a bit of a gas investment. Killing off a couple of supply depots, killing off a couple of workers. Just pulling your opponent around and taxing their APM can also be really nice. Jason still just trying to build up their army. I mean, both of these players, they're starting to build up a bank. Jason has a little bit bigger of a mineral bank, so maybe he can reproduce those Marines a little bit quicker. You see a lot of stuff over here in the structures tab, and I'm really trying to take a look at where these barracks, the barracks and factory counts are at. We do have a slight little factory lead in terms of 3 factories out for Juggernaut. Jason can reproduce those tanks a little bit faster. And that's going to be really nice in the upcoming engagements as they start to trade out a little bit. Jason sieging up this expansion at the same time, dropping in the main base with just a handful of units. They do get cleaned up for the most part by that siege tank at the backside. But losing this 4th expansion is not going to be something Josh can really afford to do right now. His planetary fortress is pretty important. He's trying to siege up some more of his siege tanks. He's trying to drop them out of those medevacs, but Jason comes in with some reinforcements of his own. He pulls back the siege tanks that are getting in range of some of those Marines. The Marines, in a sense, also soaking up some of the shots from some of these siege tanks over here for Jason, and Jason ends up losing a huge chunk of his siege tanks, but still manages to maintain a lead, and that just goes to show you how many siege tanks he really had. Josh has an opportunity to try and move in with these drops, but didn't really take advantage of it. And now Jason, having done a lot of damage to the worker count, I mean, it's going to be a kind of nice-ish position, but let's be honest. There's oversaturation over here at the 3rd. There's going to be oversaturation over here in the main base by quite a bit, even at the natural. He can really afford to lose some workers. He cannot afford to lose the mining time and also the actual expansion itself. As you can see, Juggernaut Jason, he's still got a nice little lead, and here we go. Siege tanks being dropped on top of Jason's, and it is going to be enough to push him back. A really nice play over here from Josh. Knocking down these rocks is going to be kind of nice, preventing Jason from walking up with, say, Marines or additional siege tanks, saying, if you want to drop up here, you've got to have the medevacs to drop up all those units. And where are Jason's medevacs? It looks like they've all been taken out. That is, no, sorry, what am I talking about? They're all loaded up over here. They're just not with the main army. Jason's going for a big dune drop along the bottom right-hand side of the map, and the sensor tower is going to force him to go in a very roundabout path, but he's gotten his opponent to siege up his army very defensively over here. Now he charges in with a lot of these Marines. He's going to be able to take out most of the siege tanks for Jason, but Jason is still going to have enough Marines to trade out okay and defend his position at the same time. He drops in the main base. There's a couple of siege tanks over here, but not nearly enough to defend against the big doom drop over here from Jason. Jason's siege tanks not quite getting into the mix of the fight. They're taking out the refineries. They're taking out little bits and pieces of the army over here. Being able to take out the orbital command is definitely nice, but I really do feel like if you can get on top of the production, if you start taking out some of these reactors, maybe even taking out some of the factories or something, that could put him into a really nice spot. He has to be a bit careful over here, though. He's dropping Marines on top of his opponent's siege tanks. Josh does not have any Marines over here to defend, and this is really hurting him. Planetary Fortress helping out quite a bit at the same time. More action happening on the right-hand side of the map. Josh coming in with a drop, not able to make a whole lot happen against the Planetary Fortress, but Jason is starting to get cleaned up over here in the main base, and it looks like Josh knows that he's lifting up his Marines, ready to drop on top of those siege tanks. He does have to lift up and retreat on out, but the damage has been done. Jason is sitting up 30 at 5 army supply, takes out the dropship, and sitting a very, very nice lead, having taken out the main orbital command, stopping any of that additional gas income. Not granted, not a whole lot available over here, but even shutting down, I think there was a reactor or a tech lab over here. Killing off even small little bits like that is helping out, especially as these players try to spend their banks in remax. Oh, but the game has finally calmed down just a little bit. We finally have +3 armor finishing up over here for Jason, as he's playing a little bit of catch up. Those double engineering bay upgrades really doing Josh quite a bit. But is it enough? I'm not so sure. Here we go. Both armies poached very, very aggressively out in the center of the map, but here we go. Scans coming down. Both these players realize where they are, and here we see Jason, the first one to drop his siege tanks. He gets the first volleys off, but does he have enough Marines on the ground to support his siege tanks? It doesn't look like it. The Marines are stimming forward. They're stutter stepping forward, and they manage to take out all of Jason's siege tanks and all of his Marines. But Jason, he still has nearly double the supply of his opponent. 90 supply to 170 right now. Jason has another army behind this, and he finally spent a lot of that bank. Now, Josh still has a large gas bank right now, 2,200 gas, but where does he spend it? Liberators, definitely not the worst choice right now. Oh, sorry, what am I saying? Liberators coming out for Jason right now, and that's where a lot of his money is going. But what does Josh really have? His army supply is still half the supply of Jason, and Jason is charging across the map once again. Now, granted, a lot of that supply is in the production tab. We have 3 Liberators, 5 Marines, 2 siege tanks. That's a decent amount of supply to be in the production tab rather than currently out. And Josh is really hurting for that mining right now. He's finally established this 4th expansion again. He's gotten his 5th expansion up and mining, using those mules, got that planetary fortress, but oh god, losing more of these siege tanks. Josh cannot afford to lose all of this, and he is going to lose his army, potentially with it, his defensive position, his ability to stay alive in this game. Another upgrade finishing up, it's the ship weapons for those Vikings, for potential Liberators that are now out. And is there really much of an answer besides just the Marines getting a nice position against these Liberators? Doesn't look like it, but it looks like that's going to be enough for now at least. Ugh, suffers a couple of Marine losses in exchange for that one Liberator he managed to kill off, but Jason sieges up fairly aggressively. And the main idea is he wants to get on top of those siege tanks and force those siege tanks back with those Liberators, while using his own siege tanks to just push the Marines back, prevent them from getting some nice free pickoffs. It's the slow and a gradual choking out of Josh, but Josh has a little bit more time to try and make something happen. He's getting closer in supply. He's only 40 or 50 supply behind, rather than, you know, 100 supply or something like that, or that he was earlier, at least in terms of army supply. But here we go. Jason, I think that he knows. He's segmenting off the army of Josh from this 4th expansion. He can move in over here with a couple of Marines if he wants to, but no, he's going to go for the jugular. Planetary Fortress adding in quite a bit of DPS. The siege tanks unsieged over here for Jason, because he is choking them out, and there we go. The entire army is gone. GG gets called. Juggernaut Jason takes game number 1. And I feel like that game, it was very much in favor of Juggernaut Jason for a large portion of it. But the important thing I want to note is that it was never so overwhelmingly in one person's favor that a really good engagement, or, you know, a really nice set of drop harassment, or you kill off a lot of workers, or maybe even some of the production facilities halt your opponent's ability to reproduce units. There was never a point where something like that could not have changed the tide of things. That was a fairly long game, so we're going to be hopping into a short little break while we get ready with the next series. Next map is going to be Frozen Temple, so we'll see you guys in a second. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, as we are going to be spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map on top of the yellow Terran player, currently sitting up 1-0. Give it up for Juggernaut Jason. His opponent spun down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the blue Terran player, looking for a bit of a comeback, and definitely didn't look too bad in that last game. Give it up for Josh. And a lot of people asking, where is Rifkin? First, I want to note, just for those who are wondering, since the game did start a little bit earlier than we actually got into the game, or at least showed everything, but there was a gas first opening from Josh, so you can see that's immediately leading up into very, very fast factory And, ooh, very clever over here. Okay, I think Jason was trying to go for the gas steal. I just saw for a moment, I was like, oh, the refinery is going down. Jason goes for the denial, but no, not going to happen. Regardless, people asking, where is Rifkin? And the answer is Rifkin was at his high school reunion yesterday. So he was out pretty late last night, and the way that things sort of worked was normally he would be here to cast the Alima League earlier on. But the problem was he had been pretty late, and Alima League starts at 6 a.m. for him. So he was like, hey, Fear Dragon, can you just do the Alima League? I was already planning to do the North American qualifiers, because for those who don't know, my name is Fear Dragon. I like North America, and I do a lot of North American stuff. So that's sort of just the answer for where Rifkin is for all you very, very nosy subscribers. I won't say nosy. That sounds rude. But all you subscribers that want to know where your beloved Graham is. Your beloved Graham Cracker. Regardless, Reapers over here from Jason. He did make these because he went for the Barracks then Gas Geyser opening, which is a little bit more standard and typical. Whereas, yeah, Josh went for the very, very fast starport. You can see how much faster the starport is in comparison, especially not getting the natural command center. Starport is finishing up just now, and the medevac is on its way out, whereas the factory is only just about halfway finished over here for Jason. So Jason really going to be relying on good positioning and a lot of Reapers. A lot of Reapers over here to defend against whatever kind of medevac drop comes in over here. It is going to be a Widow Mine drop. And why are there so many Reapers? He only really put pressure on the other side of the map with 3 of them. I guess the Reaper grenades can be very annoying. There is also a Liberator follow-up behind this for Josh, so that's going to be very annoying to deal with. Oh, Reaper's able to catch these Hellions, and maybe this is what they were waiting for. Reapers are going to be able to kill one of them. Not able to kill the second one, and now all the Reapers are going to be totally out of position to deal with this drop over in the natural expansion, so Reapers now going to be able to try and move their way to the main base. I guess the Liberator not going to be able to be too effective over here. And where are the Marines? Where is everything else? We see SCV starting to go down. This Marine drop now moving over to the main base. Able to kill off a couple more workers over here, but not a whole lot. Oh, Reaper grenades going down in mass. You have to remember they do joint splash damage. So already kill off 5 workers, softening up a decent chunk of the rest of them. A lot of those units, or these SCVs, moving over to the natural expansion command center. Oh my god, these Reaper grenades are starting to add up. 12 workers killed. Natural expansion gets canceled. And even though the drop is still alive and well, still alive and kicking, that's pretty much the only hope right now that Josh still has. These Liberators, oh my god, we're seeing a Sea Shank being killed off by Reapers. What is happening? 17 workers killed, more still going down. This game is going to be won by 5 Reapers. I mean, there's no answer over here though. A Viking from Jason would do so much, but he doesn't have gas income. Jason only has 70 gas right now, and he doesn't have any gas guys over his natural. He's really just going to be relying on these Marines to get into high enough numbers to deal with this. He's murdered the economy of Josh. I mean, he doesn't even have a natural command center anymore. But this has become a weird base trade. The problem being that the units, it just kind of end up favoring Josh with just that single Liberator. Oh, and some really nice medevac micro over here from Josh, keeping him alive, trading out versus the medevac list, Jason. Gas guys is finally down though. Oh, Cyclone gets picked off. And that means that the medevac is going to be able to stay alive, as well as I think the Liberator died. I think the Cyclone killed off that Liberator. The Reapers end up finally coming back. They are going to be enough to at least push back these Marines. They have the DPS, they have the grenades to move things around and potentially get some good stuff done. It looks like Rifkin is there. He's sitting in the chat, chilling like a villain. He's definitely not hungover right now. No, that would be unprofessional, Rifkin. But Josh, he's trying to bring this back. He's not giving up. He's still got these medevac, and he's still got these Marines, and really there's not a whole lot of anti-air. The Viking out from Josh as well, denying mining at the natural expansion. He's bringing himself back slowly, but he's got to do a lot more still. He's got to make sure that this doesn't spiral out of control in terms of Jason's favor. He's got to continue to deny mining and not let him make use of those 31 workers that he has. Oh, but at the same time, the Reapers are back. The Reapers have killed all 25 of these workers. And he's going to continue to kill off. Oh, he loses one of the Reapers, but he kills off some more of these Marines. The Marines are all going down. It's only SCVs left over. 2 more Marines are going to be popping out pretty soon. But these Reapers are already regenerating the health of the command center. It gets halted in production. These Reaper grenades should also be enough to start dealing with these Marines if they need to. Already killing a kill off. Almost a kill on one of these Marines. Killing off some more of these workers. This is insane. But Jason takes the game. 2-0. North American TvTs. I love it. I love it. I love it. How can you complain after a game like that? That was beautiful. That was a 5 Reaper base trade that Jason just won. Who would have thought 6 Marines and a Widowmine and a Liberator do less damage than the 5 Reapers? That's awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to mean that Jason advances on to the winners semifinals. I'm going to try and find another game as soon as possible to hop into. So, ladies and gentlemen, you guys are watching the BaseTradeTV coverage of the WCS. Oh, sorry, not WCS. Well, I guess it's technically WCS event. The DreamHack Valencia North American Qualifiers. We'll be back in a little bit, guys, so don't go anywhere.